fry them up. Oh yeah. Hey everybody, this is Fry. So a lot of people have been asking me to make a YouTube tutorial on every single hero. What would be the all basic deck for that hero? If you're going to make a deck with all basic cards, this is good for, beginner players or players that don't have a huge collection. And all of these decks, obviously, as you get more premium cards, you can definitely, take things out of these decks and add on to them. But right now I'm going to be focusing on the bare minimum, all the just basic cards. So if you just even play through the campaign a little bit, you can definitely get all your little H coins at the beginning and get all your basic cards. It's very available and very, all these cards and these decks are going to be available to each and every player in this game. So today I'm going to be doing the plants. We're going to be going in order, and let's start with Green Shadow Basic. I'm just going to open up these decks one at a time. I will show you what the deck list is and try to give you a little bit of an explanation of why I chose the cards that I did, what the purpose of the cards are in the deck, and a little bit how to play the deck. Okay, so here's Green Shadow Basic deck. This deck is supposed to be played as a tempo deck, which means you're trying to get a little ahead on turn 1, get a little more ahead on turn 2, and a little more on turn 3, etc. Great cards for that, first of all, are the Peapod. The Peapod, it grows every single turn. It starts off as a 1-1, but it grows slowly, so if you can protect it, especially protecting it with a Torchwood, that not only buffs its attack, but also you can, teams up, so it will protect it from damage. So that's a really good way to get ahead of your opponent. We are running 4 Cabbage Pults. Cabbage Pults, you should only be playing these in the first lane, up on the heights. They get an extra 1-1. If you do, it's 2-4, which is really good stats. And we're running, also in the 2 slot, we are running 4 Fire Pea Shooters. Fire Pea Shooters, they have just decent stats. It's a 3-2. They're good at taking out other minions. It's just good stats. Anything that really costs 2 and has about 5 points of stats is fine. This one, actually, the Cabbage Pull, if you play it on heights, it'll be a 2-4, which means it has 6 points of stats, which means it's even better. We're going to go with the 2 copies of the Snow Pea. The stats of this really aren't as good, even though whenever it hits a zombie, it freezes that zombie. We're favoring the Fire Pea Shooter, just because the stats points are actually a little better. We're going to favor the stats in this situation. The main turn in this deck is on turn 3. You want to start off with your fertilizer. Really on turn 2, you want to make a play that minion will survive until turn 3, and then you come in either with your fertilizer or with the Groshroom. The fertilizer adds, of course, 3 attack and 3 health to any plant, or this one, it puts a little 2-1 on the board and adds 2 attack and 2 health to any plant. So that plant that, survive from turn 2 to turn 3, and then you can fertilize it or Groshroom it, it's a really, really good play. For example, if you play a fertilizer on your Cabbage Pull, you play Cabbage Pull, it starts off as a 2-4 on turn 2. Turn 3, if it survives, it'll actually have 5-7 worth of stats if you play a fertilizer on it, adding 3 points of attack, 3 points of health, which is insane. Having a 5-7 on the board, it's very, very hard for most opponents to be able to deal with that. We're running the 3 Bouncing Beans here. These are actually called Spring Beans. They bounce a zombie. This is just to have a little bit of removal in the deck in case your opponent plays a huge minion that you're not able to deal with. You definitely want a little bit of removal in the deck, so we have the 3 Spring Beans. Vanilla running the deck is just a nice solid card. 3, and it's 3-3. No synergy is just a good stat, so if you happen to, maybe if you didn't have a card that really survived from turn 2 to turn 3, this would be obviously a really good play. We're running 2 copies of the Repeating Moss in this deck. Repeating Moss is really used as a finisher. On turn 7, it's a really good play, Repeating Moss, and then use a fertilizer on the Repeating Moss, and I'll show you what this does. The Repeating Moss, every single time you play a trick, it does a bonus attack. So if you would play a fertilizer on this Repeating Moss, the fertilizer would get +3/+3, it would become a 5-6, and then it would do a bonus attack, and yeah, that's pretty good. And it'll keep on attacking. This is really good to use as a finisher. In terms of other finishers, we also have 3 hammers. It's just good stats, 5-4, no synergy, but it's just good to do that little extra damage at the end, a strong minion at the end, in order to kind of burst them down. We're running 2 copies of 3-Peter. 3-Peter is probably not as good as the Hammershoon, but it's pretty decent, especially if you can stick a Torchwood in front of it, because this does 1 damage in 3 lanes. If you stick a Torchwood in front of it, it'll do 3 damage in 3 lanes. Especially also since we're running all of the growing in this deck, we would like to maybe play a Groshroom or a fertilizer on your on your three-peater. That would be really good. Another option actually for this deck, I'm thinking right now actually to take out a three-peater and put in, I would actually take out, I would take out the three-peater and put in a repeater. I think that's actually a better play. So you can actually stick repeater in the deck also. This will just be another 3. The 3 slot is pretty heavy. I would probably put in just the 1. Repeater also, it does a bonus attack. It's 2/2. It does a bonus attack every turn after it combats. So sticking a Torchwood in front of this obviously would give it 4 attacks. So it's hitting for 4 attack twice, or growing it with a Grosham or a Fertilizer also would grow it and make it be a very powerful minion. So that's how you play this deck, and let's move right along. Next one is going to be Solar Flare. Let's just get right to it. This is what I have for it. So you're starting off with your mushrooms. The only mushrooms that are the basic cards are going to be Shroom for 2 and Buff Shroom, but it is a really powerful combination. You really would like in your starting hand, ideally to have Shroom for 2 on turn 1 and then Buff Shroom on turn 2. That would actually give you 3 minions on the board with 2 attack and 2 health, which is actually pretty powerful. Running for Berry Blast, it just does 3 damage. It's good to sort of remove your opponent's minions out of the way. Also, this can be used as a finisher to, if your opponent only has 3 health left, you can do a Berry Blast to face. One warning though is do not hit your opponent's face with Berry Blast unless it will cause lethal damage. It'll actually finish them off. Doing this earlier is really a waste of a card, and a lot of times removing one of their minions off the field is a lot better than taking a Berry Blast and doing to face. Even if you have a couple extra sun each, during a turn you have a Berry Blast in your hand and nothing good to use it on, don't do it to your opponent's face unless it'll actually finish them off. You'll have a little extra sun later in the game also that you'll be able to do that then. If it becomes applicable. So just to add another 2 into the deck, we're running the 1 Dr. Pepper. The healing, we don't really have much healing in this deck, except for the Power Flowers. So the Power Flowers will be able to heal a little bit, and every single time anything is healed on the board, Dr. Pepper gets a little extra 2/2. We just added this to put another 2-drop. Really, Solar Flare is really lacking in strong cards that cost 2 sun, and 2 is really the most important one. That's why you just stuck this sort of out of desperation, and Buff Shroom itself doesn't have great stats. And the other card that we have in here that costs 2 is Seedling. Seedling is obviously a huge RNG card. It just turns into a random minion that costs 6 or less. So try to use your Seedlings wisely. If you think your opponent is gonna, be able to play Beam Me Up or something that will destroy the Seedling, obviously you have to be very careful doing this, or else it usually just will die for free, and it's just a 0/1. So try to use the Seedlings only if your opponent has already played a zombie first and has no, that costs 2 and has no brains left, so they won't be able to remove this really easily. Sometimes this is a game-winning card. Every once in a while it turns into something insane. It'll turn into something with, 6 attack and 5 health. I've had that happen to me, and that can obviously be a huge game changer. So good luck with the Seedling. Running 1 Berry Angry just to add a little bit of attack to everything in the deck, including the Shroom for 2. If you play Shroom for 2 and you play Berry Angry, so now instead of having 2 little 1/1s, you're going to have 2 little 3/1s teamed up with each other that can do a lot of damage. One of the greatest cards in this deck is this one over here, Poison Ivy. It is so good. It has 3 health, so it doesn't die very easily. You're really trying to wait till your opponent plays a zombie and then play this dry. Just play this that it's hitting your opponent's face. It's anti-hero. It does 5 damage, which is a fourth of your opponent's health, which is really a really strong shot. We're running also, just to get more 3 drops in the deck, we are running 3 copies of Zapricot. It's just a 4/2. Good solid. Nothing too special, nothing too fancy. It does a lot of damage though. Alright, the time this deck really shines though is when it comes to the starting at 4 and up. 4 and up we have actually a very strong lineup, including 4 of these guys, 4 Bloomerangs. It's 3/3, it's strike through, so anytime your opponent tries to block it, you can always still be hitting your opponent's face. This is definitely used as a finisher in this deck. We're running 3 copies of Sour Grapes. Sour Grapes, it's a 2/2 and it does 1 damage to each zombie. It's good as a little bit of removal. Every once in a while you have a lot of zombies that on the board that are really weak, so you can come in and kind of clear their field. And Power Flower is probably the best card in this deck. It's a 3/5, it's strike through, it has a lot of health, it keeps on striking through, so it can finish off an opponent easily, and it also heals you for 1 health for every single flower you have on the board at the beginning of each turn. So the only flowers in this deck are the Power Flower and the Bloomerang. I don't believe we have any other flowers in this deck, so the little bit of healing sometimes can save you. The main point of the Power Flower though, it has 5 health. You're just hitting face for 3 every time and trying to get them down. We definitely have some hard removal in this deck. You need removal in every single deck, so we are running Squash. Just destroy a zombie, really solid card. And for the big finish, we have 2 copies of a different type of Squash. It's called the Smashing Pumpkin. It's a 6/5, just a normal card. It's good just to be able to do that kind of last burst of damage towards the end of the game. It's just a card with pretty decent stats. Alright, let's move on. We are going to go to Chompzilla. So we're really going to be combining two of the themes that we've already seen already. The beginning of the game, we're trying to play really tempo. You're starting off again with your pea pods that they grow every single turn. You're running only 2 cabbage pults in this deck. The running 4 flaming pea shooters and the 1 Dr. Pepper. So it's just you're trying to good cards at the beginning, trying to get them on the board. You really want your cards to again survive from turn 2 until turn 3. And on turn 3, you want to come in with Fertilizer or Grosham. Fertilizer adds 3 attack and 3 health to any minions on the board. Grosham adds 2 attack and 2 health, and it puts obviously the little Grosham, the little 2/1 on the board. If you could really get ahead with that, we're running actually 4 repeaters in this deck. Just because we don't have vanillas in this deck, so we're gonna, obviously like Green Shadow did, so we're going to be running 4 copies of Repeater in this deck. You can stick this behind a Torchwood and it becomes very powerful. It does a bonus attack every single time it attacks you during the attack stage, so stick your Torchwood in front of this or grow it up with a Fertilizer and a Grosham, and you have this minion with a lot of attack that does 2 attacks, so pretty powerful. And at the end of the game, we are running 4 copies of Bloomerang, Strike Through 3/3, really good at finishing your opponent off. Running 4 copies of the Power Flower, also Strike Through, gives you a little bit of healing, not too many flowers in this deck. Just the Bloomerangs and the Power Flowers, but also it's Strike Through and it has a lot of health, so you can really burst down an opponent. Of course, we're going to have some hard removal, so we have 3 copies of Squash. This destroys the zombie, just in case they play something really big we can't deal with. And for the finish, in the 6th slot, we are running 2 copies of the Smashin' Pumpkin. So, alright. Here we go. That was Chompzilla. This is actually one of the best decks, I think, in the basic. For the basics. Maybe at the end of this video I'll actually go through them and rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. This is a really, really good one. This actually might be the best one. The only weakness of this deck has no aquatic minions, no real way of dealing with your opponent's, aquatic minions such as a dolphin or dolphin rider or stuff like that. Except for squashing them, which obviously is really inefficient. So it doesn't have any aquatic, but on the ground it can really, really dominate this deck. So this is what I have for Wall Knight. This is again another pretty good deck here. We're starting off with 4 copies of Potato Mine, just to add a little bit of early game removal. Really, the early game of this deck is quite weak. 3 copies of the Walnut and 2 copies of Sunflower. This, the combos of these 3 cards can kind of be mixed and matched a little bit. This is what I feel like is the best. I like having a lot of Potato Mines, just so you don't get overwhelmed at the beginning of the game. A lot of times, when the Potato Mine explodes, it does 2 damage to the opposing zombies. It's just to add a little bit of early game removal, I think, is good in this deck, because this deck really shines when it comes later. 2 copies of Dr. Pepper, just because we need more 2s. We are running 4 copies of Smackadamia. It's just a card with good stats. It's a 2/3, and we are going to have a little bit of nut synergy when we come to turn 5. I'll tell you about that later. We are running 4 copies of Mixed Nuts, really, really important in this deck. This is a 2/2, but when it is teamed up with a minion, it gets 4/4, so it becomes a 4 attack, 4 health, which a 3-cost card that has 4 attack and 4 health is so great in this game. It is amazing. And our team up possibilities are Potato Mine, Sunflower, and Walnut. So we have a lot of team ups. We have actually 9 in this deck. So you really want to be playing your team ups first, and then your put this behind whatever it is, behind your Sunflower, don't put it in front of your Sunflower. Some people make the mistake. Usually in this type of deck, you really want to stick your your Mixed Nuts behind the Sunflower, behind the Potato Mine, behind the Walnut. Obviously, you play your team up first, one of the Walnuts or the Sunflower in this, and then you play the Mixed Nuts, or else it does not get the extra 2 health and 2 attack. And this is a pretty bad card if it's if it's not played with the team up. We actually have some more team ups, which is this, the Peanut. It has decent stats. It costs 3, it's 2/4, which is pretty good stats. And it is a team up, so you can use this sometimes to protect another minion. It also works very well with the Mixed Nuts that you can play. You can obviously team up Mixed Nuts with Peanuts, and that's a really, really powerful lane. We are running 2 Spine Apples. The Spine Apples give 2 extra 2 attack to every creature that has 0 attack. So since we have all these 0 attack minions in this deck, the Potato Mines, the Sunflowers, and the Walnuts, so it's very often good to be playing all your Walnuts, Potato Mines, and then coming with Spine Apple, and it gives all these minions that usually are doing not that much on the board, it gives them a little bit of attack, 2 attack, and you can sometimes do a lot of damage to your opponent that way. Pretty effective strategy on this level of the game. So we are going to go next to Bloomerang. We have all the Solar Strike Through. Really, really powerful late game. The most powerful late game in these types of decks are for sure the Solar class. So we have Bloomerang, Strike Through 3/3, Power Flower, Strike Through. We also have we actually are running 2 Sunflowers in this deck. So if you have the Power Flowers on the board, you might want to try to stick the Sunflowers somewhere just so they can add a little bit extra healing. This heals you for one point for every flower you have. This is a really good card too, Smackademia. First of all, this has great stats. It is a 4/6. All your nuts get 2 health, including this one. So it's a amphibious 4/6 that costs 5 is good stats. Plus, we are running some other nuts in the deck. We obviously have mixed nuts, peanuts, Pistachio, walnut. So it gives all those an extra 2 health when it's played. This is a very, very good card in this deck. We're only running, we're running 3. You could even run 4 of these. It probably is better to run 4 and run one less of these. I'm actually going to make that switch right now. So I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to put in a 4th Smackademia. That is much better. We will be running 4 copies of the Smackademia. Really great card. 3 copies of Squash to remove your opponent's late game, and 1 copy of this 6/5 just as a little finisher. This is also a really, really solid deck for beginners. If you want to even try to, it's good to actually pick Walnut as one of your starting heroes, because this is a very, very solid deck that's only made out of basic cards. So kind of good. You just don't want to fall behind in the early game. The early game is very weak. In this deck, we have some nice 2-drops, but not that many. So the last hero that we are going to do right now is Spudow. Let's look at Spudow here. Alright, here's the Spudow basic deck. So you're starting off with your 4 potato mines, add a little bit of early game removal. Obviously when they explode, they do 2 damage to a zombie here. We do have our mushroom combo, so running 4 Shroom for 2s and 4 buff Shrooms. Those work really well together. This spawns an extra 1/1, and hopefully you can turn 1. Best play in this deck again is turn 1, Shroom for 2, turn 2, buff Shroom. Running the 4 walnuts, I'll show you why in a second, but this is just a 0/6. 4 berry blasts, basically run 4 berry blasts in every Kabloomy hero deck. Really great card. We are running 3 copies of this card, the Pistachio. It's a card with very good stats. I wish we could actually fit a 4th one into the deck somewhere. Let's see here. I think we actually are. We're going to take out one of these guys, and we are going to put in a 4th Pistachio, making little adjustments to the deck just as we go along here. So we are running 4 Pistachios. That's a great card. It's a 2/3 on turn 2. That's really all you want. Obviously, when you get rare cards, you can replace these with Juggernauts, but this is a pretty solid. Running 1 copy of Berry Angry, just because it's going to add a little bit of attack to things. We kind of want another opportunity to really take advantage of our Shroom for 2. So if you play Shroom for 2 and on turn 3 you play the Berry Angry, your 2 Shrooms, instead of being 1/1s, will actually be 3/1s. You'll have 6 points of attack in that lane. It's a good combo. We're running 3 copies of the Poison Ivy. It's good. It's, again, 3 health, a lot of health for a 3-drop, and it does 5 points of damage when you're hitting your opponent's face. Try to just position this in a way that'll be doing as much damage to your opponent as possible. Running 3 copies of Spineapple in this deck. We do have all the team-ups. We have the walnuts and the potato mines, so it'll give those a little extra attack. Actually, 3 is actually a little bit too much, so we're going to remove this, and we're going to stick in that Zapper cut back, and we're making little adjustments to this deck. Just as I'm sitting here. Running 3 Zapricots. Usually 3 Zapricots is a lot to have in a deck. The reason I like having 3 Zapricots is because they work really well when they're behind walnuts or behind potato mines. They have 2 health, so they're weak, but they have 4 attack, which is very, very strong for a 3-cost plant. So if you developed on turn 1 or turn 2 a potato mine or a walnut, you can definitely on turn 3 stick one of these Apricots behind it, and it'll be doing 4 attack every single turn behind a huge minion that will protect it or explode when it's damaged. So that's a really good strategy, just for a little bit of field clear, a little bit of removal. Running 3 copies of Sour Grapes, do 1 damage to each zombie. And for the big finish, we're running 4 copies of Smackademia. Obviously, there's a lot of nut synergy in this deck. You have the walnuts and the pistachios, and these are just good as a finisher. They're aquatic. They have good stats. This is a pretty solid deck, too. I would give this a pretty high rating. So for now, this is Fried Peace. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you guys benefit a lot from this video. Peace. I hope you enjoy.